welcome to the April 14th episode of Beacon Web News. I'm Sym Kehr. On April 1st, President James Burge sent an email to the MCLA community informing them that the rest of the semester would be moved to full remote learning due to a rise in positive tests over the preceding 2 weeks. The campus officially closed on Sunday, April 11th at 5 p.m. Beacon Editor-in-Chief Natalia Giacomosi and I spoke with Vice President of Student Affairs Catherine Holbrook and Vice President of Strategic Initiatives Gina on how the decision was made and what is to come in the future.
That we were being really vigilant, watching the positivity rate, the case count, but also being really conscious of referring back to our original reopening plan and some of the metrics we had put in place around that. That was fully vetted by our Return to Campus Advisory Committee, and really looking at some of the contingency planning. So the concept of a stay-in-place order or a lockdown or a flip to remote had always been built into that work. So yes, we were meeting and sort of making decisions as this situation emerged, but we always had that scaffolding based on the original planning process.
According to the email, as of March 22nd, there were 28 positive cases on campus.
One of the points we were concerned about, and I think this was, mentioned in our follow-up communications, is that we had seen cases, small numbers of cases, but cases nonetheless crop up subsequently in Berkshire Towers and Hoosick. And that was a significant trigger point for us in that it wasn't just contained to the townhouses despite some of the initial lockdown efforts, and that spread due to social situations continued. Another reason for the shift to remote was around being able to best serve all of our resident students on campus, and sort of with the volume of students growing that were in isolation and quarantine, concerns around meal delivery, quarantine and isolation space, making sure we weren't taking COVID positive students from the townhouses and having to put them in isolation spaces in other residence halls to continue with that spread. It also got to a point where, yes, we were accommodating online courses for the townhouse students. We still had BT and Hoosick students in residence and going to classes. And, sort of the shift that was doing for instruction just wasn't pedagogically sound to a certain point. And again, sort of referring back to our original reopening plan that kind of had metrics that drove a lot of these decisions.
The residence halls closed on Sunday, April 11th at 5 p.m. Students who were on campus could move out starting Friday, April 2nd. Those who had left during the townhouse lockdown could start Monday, April 5th.
We intentionally built in a longer period of time for move out because of the remote class schedule, but we also wanted to, when we knew we had to go in this direction, we also knew a lot of people were going to go home for Easter. And so it was really important to get that information out in enough time to allow that to happen. And to have another weekend on the other end. And I think with the 2 weekends and the fact that Fridays are a little bit lighter and everybody had 2 Fridays, we were hoping that really would, allow for people to not have their classes interfered with in the process.
MCLA believes there was a variant of COVID on campus.
We actually don't get through Broad variant level cases. It's variant level reporting to the college campuses. It's one of their really privacy provisions, but our DPH partners are made aware of it. And we know now, both from the CDC and our own local DPH partners, that the majority of cases cropping up right now are related to the UK variant. So we know that's at least a contributing factor.
Right. And I think that our health services personnel know the pattern of what happens when
Right.
someone has been a close contact. And we've seen a change in both the incubation time before someone tests positive. It's become longer. And we've also seen more contagious spread in a living, say in a townhouse. Last semester, if someone in a townhouse was sick, and they got caught right away, usually no one else in the townhouse got sick. That isn't the case with this. So they have suspected all along that the variant was probably a contributing factor.
Yeah, and the patterns we were seeing are consistent with the information that's being reported about the variant. And one of the biggest things we were concerned about is the level of asymptomatic spread we saw this semester versus semesters in the past.
As of now, MCLA is planning for in-person classes for the fall of 2021.
No, with the Biden administration now moving up the rollout for vaccinations for all U.S. citizens age 16 or older, we're seeing that as a good sign. and that Massachusetts and sort of the Northeast will continue, with a quicker pace of vaccine rollout. Certainly, in terms of the pandemic, it's a long time between now and the fall, but we're still planning to forge ahead with our in-person courses. We'll still do surveillance testing, like we mentioned, and are still awaiting fall 21 guidance from the Department of Higher Education, the Executive Office of Education. But as of right now, plans are still rolling forward.
The state recently announced additional relief funds for higher education because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Reporter Sara Troy looks at what MCLA received and how the school plans to use the money.
Mike O'Brien of the Beacon and I talked to Gina Puck, VP for Strategic Initiatives, and Kurt Chalana from Administration and Finance to find out about financial relief that's being offered to combat hardships being caused by COVID-19. Federal administrations have been working to offer financial support through the CARES Act and higher education relief funds. MCLA has been given sums of money to support the institution through this difficult time. The student body has received many emails regarding the funds, how to apply, and what it is for. The first sum of money, CARES Act 1, gave MCLA $1.3 million to support the institution. $654,000 of that went directly to students to support them in all their expenses such as groceries, housing, technology for classes, transportation, and other lively expenses.
I mean, we're excited. I think, the money that goes directly to students is a resource above and beyond what we would be able to provide as an institution, which is great. And what I love about it for students is that there's no strings attached to that money, right? If students meet the federal qualifications that are based.
The second sum of money from the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund gave MCLA $2.2 million. The additional money from the previous act came from the Strengthening Institutions Program grant that MCLA has been a part of for the past 5 years. The $654,000 went to over 900 students in the past few weeks for expenses, and in addition, they can also be applied to the remainder of school bills.
Provide some level of relief, at least for a small period of time where families need it the most. One of the things they changed that we thought was really interesting in the second round of CARES money is institutions are able to work with students if they want to apply that money to a future bill. So for, in this case, the fall 21 semester.
The third sum of money comes from the American Rescue Plan, which some are referring to as CARES Act 3.
We're supposed to get additional guidance at the end of April, beginning of May right now, it looks like the current timeline.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't even received our grant award notification letter yet, so.
Students should keep their eye out for upcoming emails with more information. For Beacon Web News, I'm Sara Troy.
That's it for this week. To stay up to date with BWN, you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/MCLABWN. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.